Humans are capable of unimaginable things under pressure. A mother defends her kids from a bear, a teenager lifts a car to save someone's life. But in everyday life, the bear does not come. It doesn't exist actually. And most people wait. Some for full burnout, some for complete disappointment, others for a diagnosis that can't be ignored, someone for magic motivation that either never arrives or arrives through pain. And mine arrived through a lot of pain. I talked about it in the previous episode, but briefly, my body collapsed, my inner world collapsed, my relationship was on the edge of falling apart, and I didn't want to live because I couldn't see anything in my life worth continuing for. Looking back now, I wish my soon to be husband hadn't had to go through that because I wanted to love and be loved even then. I just didn't know how. Before any self development leap, before the psychoeducational programs, the therapy session, the astrology studies, the self research, before all the life lessons, my biggest changes started with such a simple thing as sports. And I didn't start doing that because I didn't like my weight or wanted a better body. All of that was fine. I can't complain about genetics thanks to my parents, but my mental muscle, the one responsible for believing in myself, was severely weakened. It hadn't been trained consistently since I was 7 years old, and I didn't become a professional athlete, of course, by doing this sports. This is not what this story is about. That was never the goal, and actually, you don't have to turn everything into your profession. Although I could run training sessions. I have the right voice for it. But sports is still in my life, periodically less, but mostly at least 5 times a week, and it's mandatory for me. Actually, sports was the beginning, but for now, what is very important for me and what I keep as my basics is at least five times a week some exercise. Mostly this is some strength exercise or Pilates. 1 time a week it might be also some stretching. Also I do roll my body and I have massage at least once a week. Every other week I have massage 2 times per week, and this is like for me it's very very the bare minimum as it's popular to say. And why sports? Because I know my constitution, like I know my psychological patterns. I know what works for me, what creates the most favorable environment for my results. And if I don't train, if I don't do sports, if I don't challenge my brain, if I don't challenge my body, my belief in myself quickly turns into comparing myself to others. I know it about myself. And I also have observed a direct correlation, not just in myself, but also in my clients. In those who have indications of this in their birth information. For example, one of my clients who produces cosmetics, her order volume is directly dependent on how much she trains. And every time she returns to sports, her orders grow. When you do a Pilates or work into a gym, so not everybody is like my client, so it depends on a person. For some people, this does not work in such a sort of in a linear way. For some people, it works different. Like for me, for example, I know what sports does to me. I know why I need this brain training and which sphere of my life exactly it impacts. For each of you, it's a different sphere. So returning to sports, when you do Pilates or walk into a gym, you are doing something your brain genuinely cannot make sense of. And I told you that it's not the same for everyone, but for everyone, this brain training impacts some sphere of their lives. For some it's relationship, for some it's directly money, for some it's friends and close environment, for some it's a professional growth, etc., etc. For some it's like personal blog and like influence in the world. But for everyone in some sphere, you train your brain to make sense of things that do not guarantee you anything, that do not bring you immediate reward, immediate result. There is no bear. Like you train in the gym or do your Pilates, there is no threat, there is no bear. Like, but you lift like there is. You raise your leg 1 time, 10 times, 20 times. Those who do Pilates, like you know the drill. Everything hurts. Like sort of for our brain, like if we look at it very directly, it's pointless technically because everything is fine, there's no bear. Why do you do that? What's wrong? Like, why do you do that? But that is exactly the hook. When we train, we act when no one is forcing us to. No boss, no deadline, no emergency. That is why so many people's lives changes there first. And for many people, like my client, income is directly dependent on this brain training, almost linearly, which means it is worth training yourself to accurately see the real physical and mental cost of every action you take. To do it consciously, not automatically, because automatic behavior requires the brain to see a very large reward before it calculates the action as worth doing, or this reward must be very close, very foreseeable, and most of the time that calculation is too expensive in the long run. So this calculation of the brain in the short run is very expensive in the long run. But our brains are not wired to automatically see the long term. That is where consciousness has to be switched on deliberately. If I had to give like everyone one way to start becoming more conscious, I would give them sports. Pilates, the gym, dancing, you name it. And most importantly, do it regularly because regularity is exactly what builds consciousness. Not one time trying to do something, not like attempting to do something for 1 month and then calling myself hero. This doing something once and then living off it for a year is a 3-year-old story. There is no money there. 3-year-olds do not need money. And you don't get it if you act like one. And statistically, in my experience, for most people, sport is either a source of life energy, a self-worth booster, a relationship quality improver, or it directly impacts their finances or their professional results. And you can build this skill without a gym too, so without sports too, by taking care of your body before something starts hurting, by building your project before you hate your job, by changing direction when things get boring, not when someone hands you a depression diagnosis. But this is simply more complicated because it requires also a lot of mental load, much more than for doing sports. Because our brain somehow understands the need of it. We can reason why we for ourselves why we do it, find other reasoning, not not the one we were talking about before, which is a huge win for everyone doing sports. And acting without pressure is not a natural state, it is a skill. And the farther you go, the higher the stakes, the more you need to train the muscle. If you decide to go there, you have to be ready to make acting without pressure part of your personality. You have to be ready to make acting without pressure part of your personality. And this applies to building a personal brand. This is why it's so important for me to talk about that. It's part of your individuality. It helps you to persistently go and do and be who you are. You need a mindset where you don't wait for instant reward. And you need to train your brain for this. What most of us are used to is clarity created by others and instant reward. For example, job where you get salary at the end of the month and you know exactly what you have to do. Shop where you buy and you know when you will receive your goodies, etc., etc. And there's a clear catalog from which you can choose. But this is not what makes a mindset of a successful personal brand owner. What makes a mindset of a successful personal brand owner is an ability to act without pressure and make it as part of your personality.